I'm back today with chapter 2 of The Bicycle Rider. Before I get started with chapter 2, I wanted to talk about yesterday and then how I'm thinking today as I go through the book. So when I started the book yesterday, to really get my brain connected, I thought about the setting a lot and how the things in the story or the different places in the story were being impacted by the year 1800 or the late 1800s. And I really thought about my main character, Marshall, how the fact that he was going around to different stores looking for a job, and especially a job where he would deliver things on his bicycle, was impacted by the time that he lived in. And I know that he was told no each time that he went to ask for a job. And so today I'm thinking about that. That's the thing that he wanted that he wasn't getting. That's his conflict. And so I'm going to track that on a timeline. And I'm going to use a timeline since this is based on a real person and a real time of his life. So in chapter 1, and I'll show you my timeline finished at the end of the story or at the end of the video today, but I want you to make one today to track events. So for chapter 1, what would you write down about the most important thing that Marshall wanted in chapter 1? And then when I'm finished with chapter 2, what would you write down today that was the most important? And I use words that the author uses over and over to help me with that. Like he talked a lot about the job or the bicycle. And I know Marshall was my main character, so that's how I came up with my quick summary. So I'm going to get started with chapter 2 now. I want to show you this illustration, the very first page of chapter 2. This is important because in this page here, they're going to describe something in the illustration, and those words are going to connect to help me understand better. In the afternoon, Carlton got up on the bicycle behind Marshall. They rode down Main Street to Hay and Willett's bicycle store. "That's my favorite," said Marshall, pointing at a shiny red racing bicycle in the center of the window. Carlton liked the funny one beside it with a big front wheel and a tiny back wheel. They both admired the sparkling gold medal pinned to a black velvet stand. "Read me that sign," Carlton said. Now I'm going to show you this again. This illustration helps the reader understand what that bicycle that Carlton was talking about looks like. And that connects to this setting or the time period of the story because these bikes were one of the first bikes and they were popular during that time. I also can tell that Carlton probably doesn't know how to read or can't read very much because he wants Marshall to read the sign to him. "Hay and Willett's bicycle store, best in Indianapolis. This gold medal will go to the winner of the 10-mile race. May 10th, 1892, Marshall read. And here, I like how the author confirmed the setting but did it in the story. The story's in Indianapolis, and now I know the specific year is 1892. And I know this story is only happening in this small time of this year and probably even this month. So sometimes stories about people's lives go from when they're a child all the way to an adult, but this story is just a very small part of Marshall's life." "I bet you could win that race," said Carlton. "Not me," said Marshall. "I'm not that fast, even though I'm almost as fast as Walter." "Hey, Carlton, look how wide the sidewalk is here in front of the store. Want me to show you some of the bike tricks now?" Carlton clapped his hands. "Yes, show me, Marshall." Marshall lay on the bicycle seat and pushed the pedals with his hands. He helped Carlton to do the same trick. People walking past the store stopped to look. Marshall squatted on the bicycle seat and juggled 3 pennies. Carlton tried squatting on the seat too. He couldn't do it. Marshall did the trick again. More people stopped to watch. A tall, thin boy said, "That's a stupid trick. I bet you fall on your head." A small girl said, "George Pepper, mind your manners." "Go lay an egg," said George Pepper. More people stopped to watch. A coachman pulled his carriage over to the curb to see Marshall's tricks. Now I'm noticing how the author keeps telling me more people are stopping, and I'm thinking Marshall must be pretty good at these tricks. Marshall did a headstand on his bicycle seat. Then he rode his bicycle backward. Suddenly, the bicycle shop door opened and Mr. Hay stood in the doorway. "Now you're in for it," jeered George Pepper. "You're in real trouble now." "Young man," called Mr. Hay, "I want to speak to you." Marshall walked the bicycle over to Mr. Hay. Yes, sir, said Marshall. Where did you learn those tricks? Asked Mr. Hay. I made them up, sir. I was just showing my little brother. He likes to see them. I don't wonder, said Mr. Hay. I'm sorry, sir, if we disturbed you. Now I can notice that Marshall's behavior changed as soon as it said that Marshall walked the bicycle over to Mr. Hay, and the fact that he keeps calling him sir and he's apologizing. I can definitely tell that Marshall feels nervous, like that he's in trouble. Disturbed us? Not at all. Those are the best bicycle tricks I've ever seen. My partner and I could use a boy like you. How would you like a job? We need someone to dust and sweep the store every day and to put coal in the pot-bellied stove. Now this part, I'm thinking about the chapter before where Marshall went around to all the stores looking for a job, and each time he got told no. And now here, he's not looking for a job, but he's getting a job. You could come here after school and on Saturdays to do these jobs. And if there is time, you could do your bicycle tricks in front of our store. It will make people want to come to this bicycle shop. Now, noticing that this chapter talked a lot about Marshall's bicycle tricks, and I'm making the connection that because he did those tricks outside of the store, that's why he was offered the job. And I might use that as my summary for chapter 2 on my timeline. Yes, sir, cried Marshall. Start Monday after school, said Mr. Hay. I'll be here, said Marshall. I can tell his tone has changed. Carlton climbed up behind Marshall on his bicycle. As Marshall pedaled home, Carlton said, It's funny. When you looked for a job, you didn't get one. When you didn't look for a job, you got one. Now, I love this part that Carlton said because as a reader, I was already thinking that at the top of the page, but when I hear Carlton say it, now it confirms to me that I was right. And that's the end of chapter 2. So I would pause the video right now and make your timeline and add the most important part from chapter 1 and the most important part from chapter 2 onto your timeline. So go ahead and pause it, and then I'll show you my timeline after. Okay, so here's my timeline. My timeline has for chapter 1 that Marshall goes looking for a job, but he is told no 3 times. And then for chapter 2, I wrote that Marshall was doing the tricks outside of the bicycle store, and then he was given a job. So he was looking, couldn't get one. Now he's not looking for a job, and he's given a job. Bye.